Zone Ads, World of Local Business Info. Subscribe to our channel, click the bell icon and select all.
Good morning all. Thank you very much for kind information and introduction. As you know, this month is September, and September is, for me, it is only Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, because I am a pediatric oncologist working in Norfolk Government Cancer Hospital. So let us see what do you mean by childhood cancer, and then how is it affecting our livelihoods, and how is it affecting our population, and at the country level, the community level, and at the individual levels. So this is the population, as we all are aware, and we are absolutely not proud of. This is the snap which I taken about 10 days back, which is showing that it is almost touching 1.4 billion, and out of that, probably 30% of the population is less than 15 years. So this is the population what we are actually dealing with. In pediatrics, when we say pediatrics, it is less than 18 years. So probably it touches around 1/3 of the population. So 1.4 billion, 1/3 of the population what we are dealing with. So this problem is in this age group. So let us see how much is this childhood cancer burden are we facing. So it makes about 5% of overall the cancer what we see. It includes adults, pediatrics. So childhood cancer makes about 5% of all the cancers. So it's comparatively a rare disease when we talk about cancer. So, but still, with the population what I just showed you, the amount of burden what it puts on is definitely very huge. So, to tell, approximately about 4 lakh children are diagnosed every year globally. So, every year we see about 4 lakh children diagnosed to have one or the other cancer. It's global data. So, when it comes to India, it's about 50,000 children are diagnosed every year. This is just approximate numbers, that around 50,000 children are diagnosed every year in India with one or the other type of cancer. So when I break it, it looks like every hour there are 5 children who are diagnosed in one or the other place in India. But this is just a tip of the iceberg. So we exactly don't know what is the incidence of how many children actually are getting cancer. And why I say tip of the iceberg, because there are so many children who are not at all diagnosed, or who die before their diagnosis comes into picture. So that's why it is told that it's just a tip of the iceberg, that what we are seeing. So we have plenty of patients, plenty of children who are not at all having access to the health system to get diagnosis of this condition. So to tell about the survival status, this is more important to remember that about 80% of the children with cancer will survive in high-income countries. So once they are diagnosed, they are treated, about 80% of the children are surviving in high-income countries. Whereas in low and middle-income countries like we, have only about 20% of the children surviving after treatment of this cancer. So it's a huge worry. So we just need to concentrate on this. So it's 80% and 20%. So different when it compared to, and it's not different in diseases, it's not different in treatments. Of course, there are some minor changes in the treatment wise, and disease pattern are also almost similar, but still there is stark contrast between two survivals, right? So we need to concentrate something more on this. So it just tells that every 5 children who have been diagnosed every hour, we are losing 4 children out of them. So 4 children are dying every hour because of cancer, out of 5 children who have been diagnosed. So why is this lagging behind, so much of lagging behind when compared to high-income countries? There are some of the reasons which I quoted, there are so many others. Some of the important factors what we can see is lack of awareness among the population. So many people doesn't know. So even probably, I don't know, if someone may be there that they even don't know that there is some cancer which can occur in children also. So whatever we say, listen, it is in adults. So children do get cancer. So to that extent, awareness is lacking in population. So they need to get awareness about the disease. Once we have good awareness, probably we can think about catching that 80% mark, what already is prevailing in high-income countries. It's also the late diagnosis what we get and late referrals what we get to the higher centers. There are some good centers who are doing some good services for the children, but those centers need to get the children. So those children are not being referred or they're not being diagnosed at the peripheries. So late diagnosis and late referrals are one other cause. Inadequate services to cater a huge population. As the population is so huge, it is very difficult for a country like this to do services for each and every children. Of course, that is understood by everyone that what is the impact of this exploding population. So the other thing which is more important is financial constraints. This is something which is there in every disease, but this also is suffering out of that. Majority of the children present with advanced stage in low and middle income countries. And it said that 80% of the children in low and middle income countries present in advanced stage because of late diagnosis, because of late referrals, and many logistic problems what the family people face before they come to the center to get the treatment. So because of this advanced stage disease, the cure rates comes down, the success rate comes down. So this is very easily explainable that this is one other reason for failure of low and middle income countries. And there are lack of strong policies from the government side also, which is not promoting and which is not highlighting this as a major issue. So probably this also needs to be taken into consideration. There are high abandonment rates. So once the child gets diagnosed, they come to this center also. There are so many children who are lost to follow. They start with the treatment and then after some time they can discontinue it for many reasons well known to the parents. Many reasons are there: logistic, financial, work pressure, and social problems. So of course, when I tell it carries a social stigma with it. Childhood cancer definitely carries social stigma with it that need to be cleared from increasing the awareness in the population. And of course, we see the gender bias. There was one good article published about 2 months back from AIMS where they studied and then saw that male children are getting more cancer. So that was not the reason. Probably the reason was that male child were taken to treatment. Female child were not taken to treatment. So that was the bias what was getting it. So by that probably it was said that the incidence of cancer is more in male, less in female. That was not the reason. Probably the reason was parents were not at all taking. If the female child is diagnosed, they don't take to the hospital to get the treatment. That's the sad part of that. So what to do for these things? It is only that the best way is to do first, to start with spreading awareness about the disease. What is it and how is it done? So to do this in international platform, they saw it is not only a problem in our country, it is there all over the world. So for that they started celebrating 2 events. One is International Childhood Cancer Day, that is celebrated on February 15, and the other one was naming September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. So in this 2 special days or events time, that at least people should concentrate more on childhood cancer and spread awareness as much as possible, and also to increase funds as much as possible to support these children. So this was the logo symbol which was placed for symbolizing childhood cancer, and you can probably guess why this color was chosen. This is a golden color, as gold represents purity, resilience, and preciousness among the metals. So are the children in our among the population, right? So just one slide about what is cancer. It's simple words. I'm telling you that these are the cells are the basic building blocks of our body, and our bodies have got about 37 trillion cells, and every day old cells die and new cells are made. This is just approximate that there are some 37 trillion cells in the body, and they are constantly renovated. So old cells will be dying and new cells will be forming. So in this process, sometimes what happens is the cells start multiplying and growing without control. So if one cell escapes that protocol and then it becomes uncontrolled division, that is called as cancer. So it can become like a lump or a tumor which is otherwise called as cancer. The causes of the disease is really not known when it comes to childhood cancer. The cause of childhood cancer is not known. Okay, that is one important sentence that we should be remembering, that there is no actual known cause for childhood cancer. So what are the types of childhood cancer? Practically speaking, any part of the body can get cancer. Even in children, it can happen. Mainly, there are two types of cancers. One is blood, that is liquid cancers, and second one is solid tumors. So liquid cancers and solid tumors. Most common is acute leukemias, second followed by brain cancers, that are medulloblastomas. So this is much more enough to know what are the types of cancers. So any part of the body can get the cancer. Among them, solid tumors and liquid tumors. So in liquid tumors, blood cancer is the most common, second followed by brain tumors. So these are some of the red flags what we see, and it should be known to everyone. If you find these kind of things, probably you should be alarmed to go and get some consultation and then proceed further for evaluating further into that. So when you see that the child is having pallor and bruising and bleeding and complaints of general body pains, so usually children will not have body pains even after playing for a long time. Okay, if the baby is complaining body pain or back pain particularly, you should be very much aware, very much alarmed that probably there is some more problem in the child. You need to get good evaluation for the child. That's what you should be getting a red flag sign there. Second one is, if you find that there are some lumps or swellings, especially which are painless, you should be alarmed about it. If the child is losing weight without any reason, or if the child is not gaining weight as per the age, is also an alarm. Then you should probably get a consult. If the child is persistently having cough and shortness of breath and then sweating in night, then probably you should be going to get a doctor's consult. If you find there are eye changes like white pupil and new onset squint, the baby is suddenly changing the direction of eyes when looking at one side, probably that's an alarm, then you go and consult. If there is any abdominal swelling, you should be definitely going to get it. And if there are headaches, especially unusual, persistent and severe vomitings the child is having, then probably it's a alarming sign. If the child is having limb pain or bone pains, swelling without trauma or signs of infection, then probably you should be going and getting consulted. So fatigue, lethargy or signs in behavior such as being withdrawn, the baby is absolutely not interested in surroundings, baby is not at all playing, probably you should be alarmed about it. And if the child is having loss of balance, was able to walk and run in a normal fashion, then suddenly baby is swaying or falling down unnecessarily, probably you should be worried about. So these are some of the red flag signs which doesn't indicate that these children will have cancer. It just means that probably you should go and consult and evaluate in this line. So by this you know that there is nothing like one symptom or one thing which can be seen and then told that this child is having cancer. Okay, there is nothing like that. So some of the differences when we compare to adult cancer, these are some of the differences. Mainly in adults, you find that they are related to the lifestyle factors like smoking, diet, occupation and exposures. They determine some of the cancers in adults, but they are absolutely nothing in children. Okay. So, and in adults, we see that the cancers, majority of the cancers arise in organs like lungs, colon, breast, ovary, pancreas cancers, but we don't see that kind of cancers in children. They are from the tissues like blood, bone, lymph glands and muscles. So there is some biological difference also. The treatment is often, exacerbated a bit, often palliative, but in children it is only curative. We treat childhood cancer only to cure the cancer. The intention is always to cure the cancer. In very, very, probably very meager children, we try to start with palliative care. So these are some of the common cancers when we see the pie chart. The most common is leukemias, brain cancers, followed by all other cancers. So soft tissue cancers and all. So how do we manage childhood cancer? It is treated in all three modalities. Treatment includes chemotherapy, that is injection based and or oral based, which are medicines. Second one is radiation therapy, where radiation is given to the cancer. Third one is surgery. So all three modalities will be included in the treatment. Depending on the type of cancer, these three modalities will be used in permutation. So the team for treating a child with cancer includes, it ideally should include a pediatric oncologist, pediatric oncosurgeon, radiation oncologist, medical social worker, child nutritionist, child psychologist, and child play therapist. You can see that there are so many important persons who are included in this list: medical social worker, child nutritionist, child psychologist, and child play therapist. They are also a very important team members to treat a child with cancer. It's not only the doctor who does, it's never a one-man show here in childhood cancer. So why? Because it is not only the child, it's the whole family which is affected because of this cancer. You can see that the entire family is affected because cancer usually strikes children at younger age, and their families are often very young, and they may be there may be other small children at home to look after also. So it's not like only one child family. There can be 2 to 3 children. There can be that the first child has got cancer and second child is just in the lab. So the family is definitely burdened with this, and sometimes one or both parents must stop working for supporting the child who is undergoing cancer treatment. So it definitely puts a lot of pressure on the families, especially nuclear families. They have got a lot of burden on that, how to deal with, because if they are not having any support from grandparents or something which is very common to see nowadays, they suffer a lot. They don't know what to do exactly and how to proceed with further. Probably these are the parents, these are the children who need a lot of support, especially from the team what I just enlisted. To see how is the success rate going on, is there any chance that these children are getting cured or what? This is what it tells, that majority of the cancers, these are the cancer types and these are the success rates what you see. So majority of the cancers, it's between age 0 to 19. As you see that all the cancers at least have crossed 50% of success rate, and some of the cancers are touching 97, 90, 96, 90%. These are the success rate what we are seeing. So these are the cure rates what we can see, probably cure rates what we say. And coming to this slide, this is regarding acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which is the most common childhood cancer what we see. As you can see, as the decades have gone across, so we can see that from 1960s, 1970s to 2000s, you see the success rate has dramatically increased, and it is almost in a straight line from 100%. So it is still not 100%, but it is nearing 100%. It's above 90% that what we are seeing in the success rate of childhood cancer. So definitely we need to bet on this, and let's see as much as possible try to concentrate on this, because we have a definite chance that we can get a cure in these children. So these are some of the myths and facts. Probably it will be interesting for you to know about this. So I will see if somebody can answer this. If I can say that survivors are disease carriers and pose health risk to others, do you believe it?
No.
Absolutely no. So childhood cancer isn't contagious. It doesn't, spread to one to others if they are staying in the same house. It doesn't mean that they're contagious. So childhood cancer is not transmitted by virus or it is infectious. It is safe to interact with the survivors. Not only children who are undergoing treatment, even the survivors are absolutely safe. Okay, they are not contagious. All survivors are genetically inferior and have fertility problems. Do you agree with this? Are they genetically inferior and have fertility problems? In everyone, fertility problems are seen. It's also wrong. This isn't true for most survivors. Of course, there are some diseases which can have problem in fertility and problem in genetic concerns. They are very, very less as compared to as it is generalized. So there are very less people, less children who will have these problems, but majority of them will be fine. Survivors have short lives. Do you agree with? Even if they fight out cancer, they don't live long or something like that. Did you feel like that? Absolutely no. 2 out of 3 children childhood cancer survivors have increased risk of late effects and secondary cancers, but this doesn't mean that they have decreased life expectancy. So there are some children who are having some problems because of the treatment, because of the cancer. They can have some problems, but doesn't mean that everybody have very low life expectancy. So childhood cancer survivors are cured. So survivors no longer need continuing follow-up. Do you follow this one? Do you agree with this? Once their treatment is done, they need not go to the hospital. They are absolutely fine. They need not come to consult a doctor. Do you agree with this? No. This is what you need to. If somebody you come across, probably you should just stress this on. They need continuing follow-up with the doctors, not only for the cancer point of view, also for the treatment which they have received that will have some side effects that need to be followed up. And child is a growing body. We need to see what kind of effect that treatment has on the growing body. So that need to be continuously followed. So they need vigilance and regular monitoring, which is very critical for a child development altogether. Childhood cancer survivors will have a miserable, sad and dismal future. Do you agree with this?
No.
No. So there is a life and a future after cancer. That's what we should stress upon. It is absolutely wrong that if somebody says that, okay, once cancer, it is over. No. Survivors do poorly in school and employment. Do you agree with this?
No.
Or did you hear about this? That they are definitely not going to go to schools. Even if they go, they will not going to do good, or they will not have any jobs. Absolutely wrong. This is not true for everyone, but there are some survivors who will have some problems with this, but it's not something like which is generalized sentence. So most survivors do very well in their education and career. So this is something which we have seen, because if you just recall, majority of the children will have issues, or many parents do use this sentence that if you don't eat, I will call the doctor to give an injection, right? So this is the common sentence sometimes used by parents to make the child do what they wanted to do. So here what happens in cancer, children are exposed to this kind of injections, hospital, and they are so many times got these injections and this one, consultations with the doctors, looking at the stethoscope, they do play with the injections. That pain or that fear absolutely goes off, and they will be fearless, and that's what makes them very well successful in education and career if they are not having some particular cancers which has got some impact on the brain. So this is what impact of childhood cancer happens on survivors. So some of the other things are like, it's better if children and adolescents with cancer aren't told that they have cancer. Do you agree with this? No. Because they need to be informed to understand and feel empowered to take charge of their own well-being. This is absolutely important that they should be knowing, especially adolescents. They should know what is happening with them. If they know, then probably it is always better. You see that their response is good, and then they will be more compliant, and then they will be coming regularly to the hospital to get the visits and complete the treatment in a better way. If not, they will be diverted with the Google or internet what they get, and then all the negative things will be more in Google, and their motivation goes down. If the parents start lying to them, their motivation goes down because they only see negative things in internet, right? So the last one, childhood cancer survivors will always carry the stigma of cancer in their adult life. Do you agree this?
No, sir.
They do carry, because the awareness is less, so, but it should not happen. In most countries, survivors are viewed as heroes and seen as living proof that childhood cancer can be conquered. And so we celebrate Yuvraj Singh, we celebrate Sonia Gandhi, we celebrate their victory over cancer, but we should always celebrate children who have conquered this cancer also. So in majority of the countries, they become heroes when they complete their treatment. But that should also happen here. So these are some tragedies what we see here. These are some of the children who present in a very late stages, and it's very difficult for any doctor or any institution to do good job with this kind of children if they are coming in this stage. So this is what we should not see. They should be coming as early as possible to the hospital and get the treatment done. And this, we at Basavasargam, we have got about 60 pediatric dedicated beds which are exclusive for children, and a dedicated and wonderful playroom for them to get entertained. This is what the statistics tells in our hospital. As you can see, it's very clear from 2010 to 2000, this is just 19, that the numbers are dramatically increasing. So we need to be geared up to take care of these children. They are every year the numbers are increasing, and we are actually getting equipped for and getting ready for taking care of these children. There are many and many children who need these services. So we have advanced bone marrow transplant unit also to support children who need advanced treatment. So state-of-the-art pediatric bone marrow transplantation unit is also set up, and this is our dedicated pediatric unit and supporting staff. So every child should have the chance of life is what we believe in, and no child should die of cancer, and cure for more and care for all is the one which we should follow. So these are some of the activities which are routinely done here to keep the childhoodness of the children intact. Of course, the treatment extends for 5, 6 months or 10 months, or sometimes 1 year also. They need to be staying in hospital premises or surrounding the hospital. So definitely they will lose their childhoodness. So we try to preserve as much as possible. We are doing the treatment. Along with that, we need to preserve the childhoodness or childhood activities what you should be doing. So we do our best possible way. It's not only we, when I say it is from the administration to the staff. So take home message from me is simple: childhood cancer is treatable in all and curable in majority. The cause of childhood cancer is not known. I have just highlighted this sentence because nobody should say that when we diagnose childhood cancer, suddenly it starts that somebody else from the family is the person who has caused this one. And majority of the times the blame starts on mother. That should absolutely not happen. We don't know what is the reason for childhood cancer. So there is nobody in the family to be blamed. There is nothing like somebody has done or somebody has not done that the child has got a cancer. Okay. So the cause of childhood cancer is not known till now. When I say not known, it is multifactorial. So childhood cancer is not the same as adult cancer. That should be remembered. So it's absolutely curable. The intent is to cure the childhood cancer. And children with cancer definitely need help from the society. So by this, probably I will end my talk. Thank you very much.